You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, thechrisvossshow.com. When the fat lady sings, that's when you know the opera iron lady has introduced the show to the thing. Welcome to the big show, my family and friends. We certainly appreciate you guys being here. Thanks for being part of the show, as always. For 15 years, we've been bringing you the most smartest people, the most brilliant minds, the coolest authors, all the greatest stories, life lessons out there in the map. And we just keep doing it. What is it, like 3 to 4 shows a day we do now? Just like a radio, we do 15 to 20 shows a week. And you are getting just this this concentrated, distilled, super wonderful data given from all the different people on the show as well. And today we have an amazing multi-book author. Her newest book is billed as a pulse-pounding novel of captivity, survival, and deceit. I didn't want it to end. Anna Reyes, from New York Times bestselling author of The House in the Pines, bills it. It's called The Beautiful and the Wild, a novel by Peggy Townsend. She joins us on the show, and she's going to be telling us about her latest. I think this is her, I believe, her third book that she has out. She's an award-winning newspaper journalist who has covered stories that range from the capture of a serial killer to a Holocaust survivor's quest for justice. Once she chased an escaped murderer through a graveyard at midnight. Well, there's a story. She's the author of 2 critically praised mystery novels. Her newest survival thriller, The Beautiful and the Wild, is an Amazon editor's pick for best mystery, thrillers, and suspense books in November, and is set to the wilds of Alaska. Booklist predicted The Beautiful and the Wild will keep the most avid suspense readers on the edge of their seats where they love to be. Welcome to the show, Peggy. How are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's wonderful to have you as well.
I'm excited to talk about my book and talk about my career as a journalist and my other books. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. And congratulations on the new book. Give us your .com so people can find you on the interwebs.
Well, the best place to find me is on Instagram, Peggy Townsend Writer on Instagram. I have a webpage, but that's where you can find me and find out what I'm doing and what's up next.
There you go. Peggy, so give us a 30,000 overview, or at least, what details you can tease out about The Beautiful and the Wild book.
Okay, so The Beautiful and the Wild is a survival thriller, a domestic suspense book. It starts out with my protagonist, Liv Russo, who is a mom and working as a house cleaner and mourning the death of her husband when she gets a cryptic text that suggests that her husband might still be alive in Alaska. And with a horrible job and she can't pay the rent, she decides to head north with her developmentally delayed son, Xander, and finds out, sure enough, her husband is not only alive, but has a second family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Holy crap. And go ahead.
Needless to say, she's pretty surprised or pretty outraged, and her husband tries to persuade her to join the group by locking her up. And she has to figure out a way to escape with winter's closing in. She's starving. Her husband's getting more paranoid. She has to get out of there.
There you go. And according to the Amazon page, she's locked in a shipping container.
Right. For a time when she tries to leave at first and threatens to divorce her husband and report that he's alive, he locks her in a shipping container to persuade, as part of his persuasion. Right. And
there you go.
Yeah,
that's not fun. We do the show from a shipping container too. It's cold in here.
I bet.
But no, I was just reading the description on the Amazon there, and it's chilling just to read the description alone. You're like, holy crap! It just sucks you right into the story.
Well, that's what I hope. I hope to draw readers in with thoughts of the secrets we keep, whether we really know the person we love. which is a big question, right?
Mm-hmm. I just assume I have no idea who they are, and I ignore them most of the times. So that's probably why I'm single. There you go. I just figure I'm always living with a stranger. That seems to work out for me. And there's some of her own secrets and different things that she has to deal with. She has to protect her son like a mother would, and of course, she's in the wilds of Alaska, which isn't always the safest place to be. Lions and tigers and bears, all that stuff is running around.
Yeah, my husband and I spent 7 weeks in Alaska in our van, and yeah, that's
Sounds like you gave this test drive a story.
yeah, yeah, that's dangerous. But we did. We actually ran into a couple of grizzly bears out in the forest when we were going fishing, and that was quite a frightening experience for me, I'll tell you.
There you go. Right now, people in the audience go, "There's no lions and tigers in Alaska, Chris."
Well, if your husband's a kind of a paranoid guy with a second family, maybe.
Maybe you never know. They could be paper tigers or whatever we call them. So this is really interesting. So what set you down this road of coming up with a story? What led you to put this together?
Well, a couple of things, Chris. I'm a former newspaper journalist, and newspaper journalists, we deal with secrets all the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So some of the secrets people try to conceal, some secrets people tell us. So I think secrets are a big part of my life, and I was thinking about secrets. And we live in a little cabin up in Lake Tahoe. We have one. And I was stacking firewood for winter and listening to podcasts, of course. Wonderful podcast.
There you go.
And there was a story of a ex-Marine named Billy Sipple who prevented the assassination of Gerald Ford in San Francisco.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he was, declared a hero, and then the media and a politician decided to out him as a gay man.
Oh, wow.
And and so his family didn't know that he was gay. They didn't know anything about his sexuality, so they basically shunned him, and he died just a bitter, sad man a few years later, living in the Tenderloin.
And here he did the great thing of saving a life. I mean, especially a president. Jesus, it's a raw deal.
Yeah, it was totally a raw deal, and it really ruined his life.
Wow.
From what the podcast said, like he died alone in the Tenderloin.
Wow.
And very bitter man. And once it came out that he was gay, the whole narrative changed, and people were shunning him and yelling and screaming at him. And so I was thinking, like, what if you did a good deed and it exposed your deepest secret? And so that was the genesis for the story. So I don't know if you've ever stacked a cord of wood, but it's a lot of wood.
Yeah, it's a lot of wood.
Time to think.
Yeah. And you got to watch out for like bugs and spiders and all that stuff in the woods. So make sure you wear your gloves.
Yeah. Oh my God. Don't talk about spiders and firewood. Oh my God.
or what used to happen to me is when you go out to get the wood, obviously I'm old. You go out to get the wood and like some mouse would jump out on you and about give you a heart attack. That usually happened to me. There'd be some mouse in there and you'd be like, "Hey, I'm in here." And thankfully I didn't find any spiders, but there's always spider webs. So it's that's a whole new novel on its own of horror. So what made you as you developed the protagonist in the story, the female, what made you build her character the way you did?
Well, I think I wanted to have a woman that was wounded but had a lot of grit. And I know a lot of really amazing, tough women in the wilderness, and I wanted to show how being in the wilderness and surviving and facing hardship can actually make you tougher, make you stronger, and can be a gift, actually.
Oh yeah. That which doesn't kill you will make you smell bad or stronger. One of the two. It'll make you smell stronger.
Something like that. So that was, I hate those books where it's, women being chased by a serial killer in the woods. I like my women to be strong, like most of my friends are, right?
Yeah. There is kind of that play on, like, what's that movie Scream, where the girl's like, "Oh no, don't kill me," that sort of thing. So there you go. And the plot that you've set up is quite kind of elaborate in the details. I mean, does any of this come from your life or just right out of your imagination?
It's a little bit of both. Like what they call, there's pantsers and plotters. Pantsers write at the seat of their pants. Plotters outline everything.
Ah,
And so I'm a plotter. And so
there you
so yeah, my pages of plots, it's kind of scary looking if you look at them, like 20, 30 pages of outline, right?
go. Hmm.
And so I just go from there. I sort of started going from there. And I probably, as some of your other writers have talked about, how this weird things happen sometimes when you're writing and the characters take over.
Yeah, I've always admired that about novelists, because they can build the whole world in their head. Like this whole world, and their characters are kind of become their own people. It's almost like, my 8 personalities. And it's just wonderful how they have this imagination, and they can just build out a whole world and design it.
Yeah, it's weird because all the characters in the book, like I knew them. They
Yeah.
were as real as my next door neighbor, which
Wow.
says a little something about writers, like where we are in the world, right?
It's how we get the great stories that keep us entertained and in suspense, as it were. So you guys, when you went with your husband to Alaska, were you going there for to do study for the book, or was this a previous trip and it ended up playing into your book?
Yeah, it was just a regular trip. We're kind of
Mhm.
mini adventurers, I guess you'd say, and we
Uh-huh.
did van life before van life was van life.
Mm.
So, and we don't have a fancy van. Our van, didn't have heat, and it didn't have a shower, it didn't have a toilet or any of that stuff. But
Mm.
yeah, we went out and just were amazed by the vastness of the state. We'd go to a lake that, otherwise would be crowded in California, and there'd be nobody there. We'd camp on
Yeah.
the shore. We met these wonderful people that were just hardy and tough. And um, there's one funny story I could tell you when we met this guy in this town of Haines, and we told him we were going to go hiking, and he said, "Well, that's a pretty barry stretch of country where you're going." And I said, "Oh, I have my bear bells." And he said, "Well, in Alaska, we call bear bells dinner bells." So,
Oh.
and he said, "You might want to take my gun." And uh, my husband and I both said, "Well, we could take your gun, but we just have to throw it at the bear because we really can't shoot." So,
Wow, Haines, Alaska. I'm pulling up. You're really out there.
yeah, we were
Mud
in some really
Bay,
remote places.
Haines Forest. There's actually a small little there's a little town there. That's really small. Looks like you could throw a rock from one side to the other, maybe. And there you go. Yeah, you're out in the middle of six. I can't even find, where's Anchorage at?
Anchorage is kind of to
There's
the
Juneau.
west, a little bit north. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, it's way over there.
we
Wow,
went
you
all,
guys
I'm
took the
sorry.
tour.
We did the tour. We went all the way to Fairbanks. We went fishing on the Gulf of Alaska.
Oh, that
We
must have been fun.
rafted the Golconda River and fished for king salmon. So,
Uh-huh. So that probably gave you a pretty good idea of isolation and snow and cold and dangers of environment, and probably a lot of that stuff, huh?
just totally, a writer starts with a little seed and just blows it up from there. And the the beauty of it was amazing. The forest, the wildlife, the rawness of it. And
Yeah.
so when I was writing a book about secrets, I thought, where else, right? Alaska. That's where you go if you have secrets.
And I think that probably takes the suspense and the survival element to a whole new level, because you just can't break out of the shipping container and like run to your local 7-Eleven and be like, hey, our next door neighbor. You're out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. I read a lot of books too about survival. living in out in the wilds in Alaska, growing your own food and finding your own water and hunting and fishing. And that's not for the faint of heart, believe me.
Oh yeah, those people are tough as nails, men and women. There's a couple guys that I see on TikTok, and I think one's in Alaska, and he's like always doing stuff like, I'm gonna build a underground thing in the snow here and make a survival thing so I won't die tonight. And you're just like, wow, that's a nice place to be. You're up there on the edge of everything, and every day is in like can we get through today and live and maybe get warm? Sure, let's do that. I mean, just
Yeah.
like it's almost like a masochism thing for the one guy I watch. I'm like, who hurt you, man? But those people have to be tough, and they just have to be tough as nails, salt of the earth sort of people in that environment.
Yeah, if you read about it, and not only like wild animals, but storms that roar through,
Oh
because
yeah.
of the weather. And there's the rivers that ice up and then break up. They've got breakup up there that just is, horrendous. That's how that guy in Into the Wild died. Remember him? He went out in the wilderness.
No, dangers everywhere. You can fall through stuff and fall through, you can see snow and it's like, oh, it's going to survive. So she's somehow got to resolve her dilemma with her husband and the other family and what's going on, or she's got to try and escape. I guess you can't tease us out as to which way she decides to go, huh?
Not too much. I can't give too much away.
Yeah, I can't give away the middle and the ending. So I figure I see where we're at. Anything more you want to give away on the book? Maybe the husband, the characters, his whole other family. Anything you want to tease out that way?
Well, yeah, I'll tease out one thing. Besides secrets, it's about how love is a part of survival. Do you ever watch that TV show Alone?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't know it, they drop off a bunch of people in the wilderness in the middle of nowhere with like 10 items to survive, right? No food, no nothing. And the interesting thing for me watching that and what became part of the book is that idea that a lot, some of them drop out because they starve and some of them get hurt, but a whole bunch of them drop out because they miss the people they love, right?
Really?
Yeah.
That's not the reason you go on one of those things to get away from the people you love, because you're just like, I need some space, man.
Yeah. The people that win it seems like, not always, but seems like one of the most misanthropic guys I've ever heard about. He wanted, he could have stayed out longer than they hauled him in after everybody else quit. And he was like, wow, I'm just getting started.
Yeah. He was really trying to get away from somebody. There you go. Definitely. But there's some people that are just really good at it. They just like their own space, like some of these people that I watch. So, story of survival and everything else. How do you feel this was different than?
This book is totally different than the other two books. The other two books were based on a woman who was a disgraced journalist in San Francisco.
Oh.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. And she was trying to. She was trying to make up for her disgrace, right? So she's solving mysteries. And in this book, this is more a book about survival. It's about relationships. It's domestic. It's more psychological, I would say. Excuse me while I take a drink of water here.
No problem.
Okay, ready to go again. Thank you.
There you go. So more psychological then.
Yeah, and isn't that the scariest thing?
Yeah, I mean, if you've seen my psychology, my psychiatrist says it's pretty bad. He's recommending a full lobotomy. So probably next week or something. Going in for the surgery. You're just going to run around and just destroy everything, and I'll probably just sit here and smile on the podcast more.
Yeah. Your psychiatrist is a brave person, sounds like.
There you go. What's coming up in the future for you? Are you have any thoughts on new books yet, or maybe a continuing of this character that's in this book?
I actually, so I got a 2-book deal, which is very wonderful. And so I just wrote another book. It's also based in the wilderness. It's set in Oregon this time.
Oh, wow.
And I just turned it into my editor, so we'll see what happens. It's It's a story about a runaway and a recluse that lives in the forest. So
Wow.
it's
Get the whole forest thing going there. Theme.
yeah. I love the outdoors. I mean,
There you
I'm a kind of a mini adventurer.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's I mean it gives you plenty to play with, especially having that huge amount of there's the scenarios and the environment that you can play with.
Definitely. And so many of us don't get out in nature anymore. Like who does? We stay in our cars, stay in our houses.
Yeah, I mean I couldn't survive in Alaska. I get a hangnail. It's pretty much the end of the world for me. I'm just like yeah, I'm not doing all that. So there you go. Final pitch out for people to order the book as we go out and all that good stuff, Peggy.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, buy the book. People say it's a page turner, which I appreciate. People say that it kind of haunts them after it's done, and which is my plan, which
I want to
a
haunt
thriller
you.
writer hopes to do, right?
There you go. It'll stick with you. So there you go.
Yeah.
Peggy, give us your .coms. Where do you want people to find out more about you and your authorship stuff on the interwebs?
So, yeah, I have Peggy Townsend writer, PeggyTownsendBooks.com, but find me on Instagram and Peggy Townsend Writer.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for Peggy for coming on. We really appreciate it. These are always fun and boy, I'm in suspense already just from reading the Amazon page. I'm like, holy crap, what's going on over here? Sucks you right in.
Yeah, well, I'm glad. I hope you read it. I hope you don't get too afraid. I hope it doesn't keep you up at night, but I hope it keeps you up at night reading, I guess.
I'll make sure to leave the lights on when I read it. Thank you very much, Peggy, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
This has been super fun. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much, Peggy. Thanks to our audience for tuning in, and hopefully you'll have some fun with it as well. It sounds like incredible suspense. Order up wherever fine books are sold. The Beautiful and the Wild, which is kind of like the story of my life every day. November 7th, 2023, by Peggy Townsend. Folks, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, the big LinkedIn news group, the big LinkedIn group. There's a group and a newsletter, whatever. I blended the two. YouTube.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on TikTok, and Chris Voss, Facebook.com. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time.